Cyclists must be forced to wear helmets, say doctors.
Yeah, that's right. This is the Association of Paediatric Emergency Medicine. And they've had a conference, I think, and they put out some statistics. And it's one of those things that, of course, everyone knows anyway, but reading those statistics just makes it so blindingly obvious that they're right. Something should be done. What they're saying is kids should be forced to wear helmets by law when they're riding bikes. The stats are 90,000 on-road accidents and 100,000 off-road accidents involving bicycles every year involve children. And if they're only wearing a helmet, you could reduce the risk of suffering a head injury by 85% and a severe brain injury by 75%.
Right.
So I guess the only issue against that course of action is, well, how do you go about prosecuting and arresting children for riding bikes?
And where are we on the helmets? Because I know there was a question mark over whether some of them were more, effective than others. Is there a standard acceptable that gives you the maximum protection available? Rather than sort of looking cool.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know there are other concerns as well, like they're saying they've done research, for example, that drivers, if they see someone with a helmet, take less care than if they're not. But I think all those concerns, the one you mentioned, the one I mentioned, are irrelevant when you're talking about children's lives.
Yeah, even if you fall off accidentally, let alone being hit by another vehicle or something, obviously it gives you the protection, doesn't it?
Well, that's right, and it says the majority are off-road accidents, so it is falling off accidents and tripping over things. And also, the ironic thing about this, very clever of the Telegraph, inset in this article, they've got another story here that the Department for Transport is helping toads by changing their road signs there's now going to be signs saying that there are toad migration crossings between January and May rather than February and May because toads are getting killed on the road. And it makes the point in a subliminal way. The Department for Transport are doing something for toads and not for children.
Yeah, so toads must wear helmets as well during certain months of the year.
I'm all for the toads, so don't get me wrong.
OK, on to The Guardian and, the latest on The Observer. Now, it's been under some threat, apparently, The Observer, hasn't it?
That's right. I mean, it's a 200-year-old paper, but basically every newspaper, they've been struggling to make money recently. It's no secret that probably over the next year, some major national titles are bound to fold. And The Observer was one of those that was facing the axe, but there was this big internet campaign, Save The Observer and all the rest of it. So what The Guardian have now come out and said, well, I should say the Guardian Media Group, which owns the Guardian and The Observer, they've come out and said they will save The Observer, they're not going to turn it into a weekly magazine or all these other things they were suggesting, but there are going to be staff cuts. Must be a difficult thing for Steve Busfield to report here in The Guardian. There's going to be staff cuts as they synergise staff from The Guardian and The Observer to write
you're talking maybe of The Guardian on Sunday, maybe? Because,
I mean,
the problem was that I think that the Guardian Media Group had to give an undertaking on The Guardian. It's protected by legal document, but The Observer wasn't, even though The Observer is the oldest newspaper as such.
Yeah.
That's been the problem.
Exactly right, but I think actually, all that side of the story I think is a kind of media concern. If you ask the consumers, why do they like The Observer, the people who do read it, I don't think they're that bothered that it's written by some of the same people who write The Guardian. I think it's important to keep the name alive and to keep some sense of editorial independence.
But the other question, if you make a good newspaper, people want to buy it. Has The Observer really been that good in comparison to the Sunday Times and Sunday Telegraph, for instance, in terms of quality papers? Anyway, that's
not since I stopped writing.
No, exactly. Well, exactly. Talking about sort of delivery of news and books and so on, Google now to offer hard copies of books. Now, this is the new sort of fast printing methods they've got of. There's a certain. Is it Octopus? I think the machine or Espresso book machine. That's right. Yeah.
So this story is. I mean, for 5 years now, Google has been quietly going about scanning the world's books.
Right.
And building up a definitive archive of out-of-print material.
Now, that's a hard drive and a half, isn't it?
It really is. It's California, basically. And their argument for this has always been that the mission statement of Google is to sort the world's information. Isn't it going to be great? You're going to be able to search by phrase, you're going to be able to download it to your computer. And their critics have said, well, actually, yeah, all of Google's products are great. I'm sure it'll be great. But the problem is that it's only Google that are doing it. Google are going to make money out of it. And even though it's out-of-print books, and the publishers don't stand to make any money out of out-of-print books at the moment, obviously, nonetheless, Google's going to have a massive slice of this pie, a monopoly. So what Google have announced now is this deal with, as you say, the Espresso coffee machine, Espresso book machine, rather, the publisher coffee machine, by On Demand Books, which is this machine. There's 12 of them around the world at the moment, and it can actually print a book from scratch in 5 minutes for about $5. Bind it for you and everything. So you'd be able to order your out-of-print book and then get it from the Espresso book machine. And the reason this plays well for Google is the book machines would be located in libraries and public institutions,
see.
and they'd get $3 out of the sale. Google would only get $1. So it's Google saying, look, we're giving back, we're giving back.
And you've got access to something that's out of print.
Absolutely, but the truth is, who's going to be printing them out? We're all going to have e-readers by the time this technology really comes into play, and Google will be making money out of that. There's only a dozen of these machines.
No,
so this is small chips, but clever PR.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for that. On to the Times, page 41. Real-life warriors rescuing victims from demons snared them in cyberspace. Explain, please.
This is the Restart Internet Addiction Recovery Centre in Havensfield in Seattle. Ironically, just around the corner from Microsoft. Yes, this is for people that are addicted. I mean, you know, it is easy to laugh, and certainly when you read about some of the things they're talking about, addiction to Twitter and all the rest of it, you kind of think, oh, for God's sake.
Well, I don't know. I think that's, you know...
It is proper addiction.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Also, you know, there is a dark side as well, of course, pornography, gambling, all kinds of things you can get addicted to online. The Times run this story of a chap called Ben Alexander who used to spend 17 hours a day being a wizard in World of Warcraft. He's 19 years old. He spent more time being a wizard than being himself. So he's gone to this centre. He's paid $14,500 for a recovery programme, which includes learning how to essentially start up conversations and cook. So it's absolutely extraordinary, but it is a growing problem, as you've seen your lead story about the anorexia. You know, there is a dark side.
But he's now addicted to rehab. That's the problem.
Well, yes, he'll be going back there instead.
14,500.
I wonder though, why didn't his parents just confiscate the laptop? That would have been cheaper.
Yeah,
turn the plug out.
Take his wizard costume away, and that's that. As ever, thank you very much indeed for that, for your little insight to the world of cyberspace. Thanks very much indeed. Ollie back with us soon, of course.